Individuals today as we discuss the current state of the agency industry. So much has changed over the last 12 months. It's been an incredible seismic shift in the way that we work, be that in physical locations, be that remotely, the impact that's had on our businesses, on our clients' businesses, on lead generation, on all sorts of aspects of agency life. So today we're going to be having an open roundtable that will be led by our dear friend Brent Weaver, and you're in for a great time. So before we hand over to Brent, why don't we go round the tables doing our standard 30-second introductions so you all know who we are. Today, let's start with Mr. Lee Goff.
I'm first. Lee Goff started an agency in 2003, grew that into a wildly successful agency that I exited in 2016. I have now dedicated my life's purpose into making agency owners' lives easier, and that is exactly what I do. So,
awesome. Peacher, how about you?
Hello, Peachanary, UX and design consultant, to be found at Design for Geeks, and very soon Cloudways as well, of course, already, not very soon. It's been a while now with my wonderful colleagues. And soon the design conference, Design for Conversions.
Ooh, nice.
That's it.
Teaser alert. Folks, my name is Lee Matthew Jackson. I'm the host of the Agency Trailblazer podcast, and I am lucky to be surrounded by all ex-guests of the show. You can find more information over on agencytrailblazer.com, which is incredible. Jan, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jan Koch. I'm the host of the WP Agency Summit, and I am lucky in that I get to talk to these amazing people on this call today.
Nice. And Brent, let's finish with you, and you take it away.
Sure. My name is Brent Weaver, CEO and founder of YouGurus. We are a business coaching and training program for digital agency owners. This is my third session with the Cloudways team. So I've been invited back again, which must mean good things. So really excited to be hanging out with you all today. Also host of the Digital Agency Show, as well as recently launched a book called Get Rich in the Deep End, all about niching and specialization for digital agencies. So today's topic, I asked Lee and Picha and Jan and the Cloudways team to help host this session around what's been going on this year. I think 2020 stands out as a little bit of a unique year for businesses and agency owners. And I feel like, I don't know if this is for you guys, but I feel like I've been so head down, like working my tail off, that I haven't taken a breath and thought, like, what's actually been going on this year? What does the future hold? I feel like I've constantly been thinking about the next 30 or 60 days, but maybe thinking about the big picture just doesn't seem like I've had time to do that. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to get some really awesome minds together around what's been going on with the digital agency market in 2020, and what are some things that we should be thinking about for the rest of this year and preparing our businesses and our clients' businesses for success going into 2021. So we're going to be running through a couple of different topics today. We're going to be talking about some positive things that have happened this year, some challenges that have happened this year, some trends, and probably most exciting, some opportunities and some things that we're excited about for the future that you can be implementing in your agency and thinking about for your clients' businesses to grow and achieve more freedom in your business and life. So really excited to be hosting this session with you all today. Let's start off, if it's cool with you guys, with a quick question on the positive. And I'd love for each of our panelists to answer on this question of what's something unexpectedly positive that's happened this year for agencies, either for your business or for businesses that you work with. Lee, Lee Goff, why don't you jump in on this question first?
Okay. For a lot of my students, and we have a lot of group coaching, so I'm dealing with dozens, if not hundreds of students on a pretty regular basis. And so it's all about the demand. Basically, it's kind of going through the roof. There's a few industries out there that are still suffering, restaurants and travel and things along those lines. But for the most part, the demand has gone through the roof. I mean, pretty much every government leader out there has been telling you to go virtual. And then, of course, you always have those clients that have been kind of, for lack of a better term, they don't want to mess with digital. They've been kind of ignoring it, not focusing on digital demand, driving leads and things like that. And so I recently just wrote an article about the third digital gold rush, and that's exactly what I'm currently starting to see with my students. I wrote that article in July, and it's starting to happen in different states and different countries and different industries. But get ready for it. So you better reload your agency now because demand is going through the roof. So raise your prices.
Lee, you said you better reload your agency now. So you're saying even though right now a lot of businesses have been pushing digital really hard, you think that this is just the tip of the iceberg, that people should be preparing for even more coming into 2021?
No doubt about it. I'm already seeing it. Literally, people are backing up months with proposals, and this demand is going through the roof. Again, I think a lot of the pragmatic and conservatives in that bell curve, of growth, business growth, a lot of those pragmatic and conservative business owners have just been kind of like, we'll leave it to the next generation to get the digital dialed in. They pretty kind of stuck to some old school live events and chamber of commerce and things like that kind of thing. And boy, they really got caught, they got caught with their pants down in this situation. They got caught. They didn't have any way of driving leads, and they were terrified. They really were terrified. And so they are now leaning in aggressively to digital. So a lot of the new clients that you'll be bringing on will be a pain in the butt because they don't know a lot about digital. Okay. That's up to you. That's your job to bring the onboarding systems up and the education systems up. But get ready because it's already happening, and it's literally just the tip of the iceberg. I think that we're going to continue to see this trend for at a minimum about 2 years. So.
Very cool. That's exciting news, I think, for most of our audience members out there. I also want to add, if you are watching this on Facebook or one of our other streaming channels, make sure to put in chat if you do have questions for our panel that you want to talk about or you want to have us talk about today. So make sure you all do that. Jan, I'd like to go with you next. What's something unexpectedly positive that's happened this year?
Yeah, essentially, I'm seeing the same as Lee just mentioned, especially with what was surprising for me, my customers in the travel space. I'm living near the coast, so there are a lot of small little villages that usually see plenty of guests that come for retreats and for vacation. And obviously, that didn't happen. But what did happen here in Germany is that those villages, the tourism offices, they could apply for grants. And they are using the time off when they don't have as many guests as they used to. They're using the time off to rebuild their sometimes outdated websites. They task me to build a progressive web app, for example, to guide their guests through the village when things are opening up again. So I'm tooting the same horn as Lee just did, and I'm seeing more demand than less. And obviously with the virtual summits, everybody and their dog is hosting virtual events these days. So that's also a huge, huge thing for me.
So even hard hit niches like travel have actually, for agency owners, you've seen some growth with that, in that they're asking for, companies like ours to help them pivot, help them to find new customers, use this downtime for something that's positive.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is because they got the grant from the government. So I would say if an agency owner watching this struggles with customers in that niche, educate yourself on how your clients can get grants from the government and guide them through that process, because in the end, that's money they likely spend with you.
Yes. Same here. A lot of my students are flush with cash right now because of the PPP and the EIDL loans, and they are very much we had a term called reload, and so we've been talking to all of my students about, listen, it's pretty rare you get this much downtime to actually work on your business, right? And so you better leverage it. And you better get out there and do it. And a lot of them have done a wonderful job in reloading their agency, getting ready for this big third gold rush coming up. So.
Peach, I'd love to go with you next. What's something unexpectedly positive that you've seen in your business or the design community as a whole?
So for me, what was really unexpectedly positive was that my life was based around traveling. And actually for 2020, I had quite exciting travel lined up. There was WordCamp Asia, which was in Thailand. I was going to spend a month in London at least. I was definitely going to the US as well. I should have been in New York in November, and that obviously all just went, no question of that. And it was terrifying initially, and then it's been absolutely wonderful. I've experienced a focus on my business and on new initiatives, new things that, you know, in order to take advantage of these amazing kind of second, you know, gold rush, as everyone's been saying, you know, as you were saying, Lee. So that's been incredible for me. I never would have thought that I would enjoy that. And it's been so great to not feel that pressure, to realize that actually it's not necessary. It's always a choice to not break the concentration, because as much as I love it, I do love traveling. It's, oh God, I sort of built my life around it, but it can really break your concentration sometimes when you have a project. So that's been a really unexpectedly positive development. And like everyone else, I was initially really terrified, thinking, business, what's going to happen to us? And then in fact, I couldn't help but see also all my friends, colleagues, everyone saying, actually, things are going really well, especially in terms of e-commerce, although not so much locally where I live, which is Spain. But yeah, but I would say that for me personally, and in general, I think for a lot of people, it's been both the fact that business has actually got better and the fact that traveling, the positive side effects of a quiet, static life has been amazing for me.
I feel like personally, like my 10 by 10 office has become kind of my work cave, right? In terms of spending an enormous amount of time at home. I think for a lot of agency owners that maybe were digital nomads, that's created some complexity for themselves, but also for those that had, offices and, now they're forced to kind of work from home. I had one of our members, and I think that's been overwhelmingly positive. One of the clients that I work with, though, yesterday, he said it was kind of interesting that most of the businesses that he interacts with have claimed, reasons of COVID or working remote for why they are taking longer to get back to people, or maybe hold times are longer, and there's all these kind of negative implications. But I think by and large, working remote and working from home has been a positive. Lee Jackson, what's something unexpectedly positive? I mean, you're kind of in one of the niches that I would have expected when this first hit would have been devastated in terms of events. But I've heard a lot of really good things from you about what you all have done in that space.
There's a couple of positives. I mean, I think the main thing that I've seen both in my life and in the life of the people of our community is that people are taking stock and they're enjoying time again with family. So the most important thing is family. We've all been burned out and busy in the past by life, and 2020 has kind of put the brakes on an awful lot of things and changed an awful lot of things for agency owners, some good, some bad. But the positive has been that time spent with family and that time reflecting on businesses. And that's kind of where it leads to the second point, that so many people have been reflecting on their businesses. They've recognized that they have potential to pivot. They have potential to be an agency that helps other people during these times, and instead of just surviving, they can thrive. I wouldn't call it a digital gold rush. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that phrase. We can probably have that one out later, Lee. But with regards to this is a great opportunity for people to pivot and create products. You alluded to the business that I run, which is in the events industry, and we were able to very quickly pivot and provide an online venue service for all of the clients who currently provide physical events, and that's been phenomenal. That has massively increased our overall turnover as a business and our profitability, which has been phenomenal. But it's also led us to consider, what products and services do we offer in the future, and how can we balance a better work life for us and for our team as well, because we've had so much more time at home contemplating and spending time with family, etc. I think it's kind of turned a lot of things upside down. We've been so focused on growing our businesses and business, and now it can be something different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you did highlight what Lee Goff said around Gold Rush, and I am definitely a very optimistic and bullish mindset, I think, in most times. But I also have felt a little bit of not like kind of shame or guilt, but like kind of that, right? Like if we're not using this time to like explode our business, or if we go on the internet and see, on Instagram, all of the really positive mindsets around like, oh, you can pivot and you can win. But I do know there are some agency owners out there that have been hit really hard that are struggling. And I think there is a lot of positive stuff going on this year, but there are also is unprecedented challenges, not to, use that kind of word that's been so overused, but there is a lot of unprecedented challenges, even for those that are successfully pivoting. I mean, I've heard one of my agencies had to cut, half of his team. Another client of mine lost, because they're in the restaurant niche, lost pretty much 90% of their revenue overnight. Now they've had some time to kind of rebuild that as well. From our chat, Brandon Alberts came in with this question, which I think kind of tees up this next challenge segment, which is, we have seen web development slow down. Are you seeing many new migrations or new site builds? So I think some people are experiencing some lulls in business, or maybe they've even had some, head-on collisions. Any thoughts on that? Do we think that this is slowing down? Is there impact to businesses that we should be talking about today?
I think there definitely is. Yeah.
Yes.
There are many agency owners I spoke to that also saw this, and I've always told them the same thing, and that is, find a new angle to sell your project and help your customers finance it. If they cannot pay you straight out of the bat, take a look. I always refer to what John White is doing at True Mountain Marketing, where they have these payment plans for their websites. So instead of charging like 15K for a website, they split out the payment over 2 years, which has the beautiful side effect of creating recurring income for the company. So if you can afford that, that is definitely something that can help you survive through these times. And also, as I said earlier, help your clients get some money from the governments and other administrative offices.
Almost in a way, getting the grants, but also maybe even extending grants or at least favorable payment terms to your clients as a way to give them a grant or give them some more cash flow freedom and maybe help them to get into the digital space. Lee Goff, you were about to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of this. I guess it's lease to own kind of thing, where you're doing a 12-month or 24-month kind of lease to own website. Absolutely love it. You got to make sure and recoup your costs in the first 90 to 120 days. That's what appears to be the rub. That's kind of the harder part. So you better optimize your systems and processes around deliverable. But if you can get it out there, I mean, it's been a wonderful, wonderful thing that's kind of come as a result of this. And everybody's going to experience the impact of COVID and the digital wave of business coming down at different times, depending upon when you're opening up and when your industry is opening up and the location of the world in which you live in and all these different things. And so I definitely know that a lot of people have been hit really, really hard, and it's horrible what they've been going through, but stay strong, because it's coming, and it'll hit all of us. So just stay strong, I guess is what I'm saying.
So I've noticed these things locally to where I am. So during the lockdown, when you could barely leave the house, I was desperately looking to buy plants online, because I was like, I need something, and I could not. I live in Spain, by the way, and I could not find, for love nor money, any website selling plants in Spain. And now there are like 5 or 6 really well designed e-commerce sites, really well done, that also that have hit on trendy plants and so on, and that's really good to see, because that's what businesses here haven't done locally. So they would still be hit if there was another lockdown. But it's the question that I know it's really hard, and I'm not by any means trying to diminish the plight, the very real plight that if you have a restaurant you found yourself in, but there's always a way of pivoting and finding an opportunity, like what you did, Lee, because in your case, you could have gone, oh my God, no more live events. I'm done. That's it. My company is going to go under. But what you did is you just made it online, and so it's really interesting how you can actually find a way to thrive if you look for it. I'm not saying it's always possible, but
True. There's no time like now to pivot, is there really? What you just highlighted there, Peter, was that there was a massive gap in the market for being able to purchase plants online, and I am sure there were some agencies that recognized that and were able to position themselves to those relevant people to say, hey, you are missing out on an opportunity. So, Brandon, yes, we're certainly seeing this across our community as well. Some are thriving, some are seeing a drop. And where you are seeing a drop, see if you can find those opportunities. Can you niche down in a particular area? Do your clients have shared problems that you can create a product to solve? One of the people in our community shared how they've actually been helping clients teach their staff how to work remotely, things that you and I and everyone on this call would take for granted. And Lee Goff was alluding to that, well, you were talking about earlier, weren't you? But where, there are entire businesses that have worked old school pen and paper, and suddenly everyone's remote and freaking out. So there are so many opportunities. We do need to dig deep for them, especially if we're finding that dip, because if that dip's there, we don't want to just sit and go down with any ship, as it were. We want to make sure we get rid of that water that's oncoming and find those opportunities to grow our businesses and to keep stable.
I have I think a perfect example of what you were just talking about, Lee, is one of the worst hit niches out there is obviously travel and restaurants, right? And one of my students owns a restaurant marketing agency out of Melbourne. And man, I tell you what, I basically, he was hit so hard, I kind of pro bonoed all of my coaching for a while. I was like, we got to figure this out. And so what we did is we started interviewing all of his existing clients. And the pain point was like, you know what? We were egregiously underprepared for the to-go orders, right? For the deliveries and the to-go orders. And so, man, he and I spent 3 or 4 hours in 1 week and just kind of put together this whole product line around how to get the platform in there on their point of sale to manage the to-go orders, their menus, running Facebook ads for to-go orders and deliveries. And it worked. It worked like a champ. I mean, next thing you know, is these restaurants were hiring him to come in as a consultant to show them how to streamline the to-goes and deliveries, and it's been wonderful. And it was something he would have never thought of. We would have never done if it wasn't as a result of this. And now his clients are like, some of them crying. I'm talking about literally crying and testimonials about how he has saved their livelihood. And it's remarkable to see innovation stepping up like that in tough times. So I love it. So.
Lee Jackson, you mentioned that you pivoted, and I think there's a lot of agencies that have made that pivot and to address these challenges. I know a lot of businesses, both in our market and other industries, have been dragging their feet on making drastic changes to their business. I definitely encourage my clients to try to make those hard decisions faster if they can, kind of make the decision and then figure out how to make it right. How long after this all kind of broke did you all make that pivot within your agency, and then how have you kind of advised on that within people? I mean, if you're out there right now and you're like struggling, like, do I change niches? Do I change markets? Do I just try to come up with a new offer, like Lee Goff just said around ordering to-go orders, right? Like how fast did you guys make that decision, and how, any insights on that?
So we started to see the writing on the wall in January. We did think that it was all going to blow over and it would just be like the swine flu, which was a big non-event, and a vaccine came out for it. So that I was pretty positive. But at the same time, I was running my own live event. So people from all around the world were coming to my physical event. So we discussed it really early on and said, look, if my event can't physically happen for whatever reason, we now need to take all the old tech that we've been working on and put something together that we feel would be an online alternative if we absolutely have to. So for me, I was forced to, because I also do what my clients do. I run physical live events, and there was a lot riding on it. I didn't want to let anyone down. So we started very early. I think that may be unusual because obviously a lot of agencies won't necessarily offer the same services that their clients will offer. What we were doing, though, was having conversations early with our clients, and that's something you should start now if you're not having conversations with them, no matter what industry, no matter how hard hit they are, is to have those conversations about how are you doing. We found out that a lot of our event clients are now going digital for the entirety of 2021 rather than relying on the government updates, etc. They would just rather that certainty. So that's a piece of information we would not have gathered had we not had those conversations. And that allows us to make our products, our services, our offerings tailored to that. We can offer special contracts, long-term contracts for an entire year for a series of events with good offers and good services, etc., because we know all of this information. So I would say start as early as possible. So if you haven't started having conversations with those existing clients to find out what the pain points are that you can solve, like Lee was saying earlier, start now. If there is completely no hope, I guess, in the industry, which I would imagine there's always hope everywhere. I'm a pretty positive person when it comes to that. But yes, that might mean there needs to be a shift. But then if there is a shift on focus of industry, what is it that you do like a super freaking hero? What expensive problem do you solve that you could solve for any sort of industry? And again, like Lee was sharing, that guy who switched into the restaurants and is now being a consultant, etc. Where else can you look? And we also have an update from Brandon. I popped it below.
So it sounds like Brandon did pivot to do this because retailers say they don't have money. So that pay for performance, which sounds even more interesting.
It's a really smart idea.
Yeah. Than just giving your client a loan, but actually getting some kind of percentage or payment on that.
So you're basically a business partner, aren't you? You're not just a website builder or a digital agency. You're a business partner. You give them a new business model, really.
I would be careful on the pay per performance side. It can get a little slippery over there, and Brent's chuckling because anyway.
Yeah.
If you've ever done this, I've done this too many times, and just be careful with it. Okay. It is a great model. Just make sure you can have some transparency into the finances and the insights behind that. That's all I will say. So
100% agree there.
Yeah, just be careful. Just a slippery slope to not a good ending in that one. Okay, so
I do have a good. I think one of our first big clients was pay for performance. So we can come back to that nightmare later. But that's.
Well, it's great when it works great, but it's really bad when it works really bad. Okay, it just doesn't seem to be a middle ground there a whole lot. So,
yeah, you need to both parties need to trust each other implicitly. Now, I do have I want to interrupt this broadcast for a little bit of an exciting announcement because, folks, you may have noticed that Brent's been with us this is his third visit with us here at Cloudways. We're super excited to announce that, in fact, Brent is officially, as of today, I guess, another Cloudways Maverick. He is going to represent the US of A. He's got some stuff he wants to share with us in a second. He's going to be rocking at many of these calls with us and continuing to add value. I highly recommend, if you don't have enough information on Brent, go and check out yougurus.com. There is some fantastic information about what him and his team are doing and have done over the years. So be sure to check that out. But Brent, we'd just love to hear from you. Why are you excited to be a part of the Cloudways Mavericks? Why did you say yes when Cloudways asked you to be on board, and what can we look forward to? That's 3 questions in one. Go for it.
Yeah, I just found that hanging out in these live streams with you guys was my favorite activity, and I went to Cloudways and I said, what can I do? What can I offer you all to be with these amazing people more often? I think what you guys are doing on the Mavericks team is fantastic. I think that getting to hang out with people like Lee Goff and Jan and Picha and you, Lee Jackson, has been a lot of fun. And I think that there is, whether the term gold rush is the right term for the digital agency market right now. I mean, I do love it. I do think there are challenges right now. I think there's so much opportunity right now for agency owners and for this type of business. I think people are flooding into this market to try to create some opportunity for themselves, and seeing how Cloudways as a managed hosting platform has created this ecosystem of industry influencers and partners to educate agency owners, to inspire them, to support them on the servers and the technical side. I think it's a testament to Cloudways that on every session that I've been on, the amount of time we spend talking about like the tech and the tech stacks is not huge, right? We're talking about the business, we're talking about freedom, we're talking about work-life balance, we're talking about helping people to make more money, and all those things go, they're super aligned with what we've been doing at YouGurus for the last 8 years and what I did with my agency the 13 years before that. So it just seemed like a logical next step, and so yeah, I'm super excited to be part of the Mavericks team. The Cloudways has been working on an agency partner program. This is something that has been a big conversation internally with me, with them, about how to better support agencies. So there are going to be more details coming out about Cloudways Agency Partner Program, how they're going to not just create content and support agencies, but actually on their business model in terms of supporting agencies as a kind of a different tier of client for them. So I know, Picha, you've been working really hard on the Agency Partner Program, and I know more details are coming out on that, but I will be helping a lot of those agency partners, both internally with Cloudways, but also evangelizing the platform in the United States. So really excited about that.
And the great thing about it is that this is a fantastic opportunity for Cloudways to show how they really care about their customers. So building trust by showing agencies that they really do care. And people who know me know that that's all what I talk about all the time, that user experience is all about putting people at the center. And Cloudways are really doing that with the program and with getting Brent on, which we are all so stoked about. We are very happy. Yes.
Oh, yes. Brent, we are learning a lot from you ourselves.
Yeah.
So this is an amazing news.
Yeah.
That's really congratulations. So there you go.
We don't have any particular hazing ritual, but yeah, I would love to join. Just to say, we're really excited. Known you for many years, have followed you. That sounds weird, on social media, obviously, and have
just on
loved the content
social,
that you put
Lee.
out. You know when you were skating that time? Yeah, no, I won't go there.
Awkward.
You know the eye of your child's teddy bear, not an eye.
Yeah, no, but joking aside, mate, really excited. So yeah,
very nice. Well, I was a little nervous that there was going to be some kind of hazing ritual, so I was prepared. I have limits, but I was prepared. So
now,
we could do ice
to show
bucket
you
challenge.
pictures of
We
Brent
can bring
when
that
he was
back.
a child. Oh, that would be so amazing if we'd done that. Oh man, damn it.
Well,
Anyway,
we will be doing more content, so we can stretch out that hazing ritual to future webinars.
You're good. We love you, mate.
So let's great to be here. Great to be a part of this group. I think excited to share everything that I know with this audience and with this crew here today. So really excited about that, and also want to just thank Cloudways for making this possible and making this kind of connection possible and creating that atmosphere. I think it's really it's just awesome. So the second part of our roundtable, I want to talk about some things. We're going to grab more audience questions. So if you are listening on Facebook or the other channels, make sure you put your questions into chat. We'll get some of those questions up here in a second. So in terms of the state of our market, I think there's been a lot of changes. I think, as we talked about in kind of the first half of this, that it has forced a lot of businesses to get online, to push their businesses into the web and onto the internet. And I think one of the big opportunities for agencies is a lot of the new disciplines or trends or technologies that are available. And so I'd like to spend some time today talking about specifically some of those opportunities of things that are actually trending up. We obviously, a lot of us, at least myself, I came from a very web 1.0 background. When I got into this market, it was front page 98 was how we built websites. Obviously, things have changed considerably. And I think COVID and everything that's happened this year has actually pushed people to even take advantage of some of these new technologies. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are you guys seeing right now as some of the biggest opportunities when it comes to, maybe we'll start with markets in particular. What we talked about some of the niches that are hit hard. Are there specific markets that we see are exploding now that maybe if an agency is hit hard right now with their niche that they could potentially be looking at for their business?
We're seeing something which may so what we're seeing is locally, especially during places with lockdown, was local food providers and local shops getting online and filling the gap that the supermarkets could not fill. The supermarkets essentially got completely rammed and booked out, so they couldn't actually deliver food to people's homes. So farms and local produce companies who were originally supplying cafes, etc., were able to switch business models. So I'm aware that there's that. The other thing for me that I've noticed is, again, in kind of the remote work space. Zoom have launched this new Zaps platform, which allows you to create custom add-ons for Zoom and really take it to the next level. So that'll touch an awful lot of industries, obviously the events industry for one, but also many industries that do collaborate online or have global teams or distributed teams. So that's certainly something that'd be worth looking at.
Definitely. Me, I've seen, worst, possible niche out there was the travel agencies and restaurants, and it's been awesome to see how they have been so innovative and kind of coming out of that. And, it's just been wonderful to see the innovation there. And the best discipline probably to be in right now is to get into that e-com, that local retail, taking retail to e-com. It would be even a little more precise. But basically anything that you can sit at home and order and deliver and have it sent to you has been the hottest thing out there going. I do worry about it falling off a little bit. There's a bubble there. I think that hopefully after we get a little bit of a vaccine, or we can start getting back to a little bit normal here, I see some of that possibly falling off a little bit. So don't do such a deep dive into that one that you don't have a little bit of like a second or a third stream of revenue coming in. But you can't go wrong with e-com and bringing some retails into e-com right now for sure. So,
in Lee, do you think that you said back to normal, right? I mean, I feel like if this was like a couple of months long, that people would kind of bounce back. But I do feel there's some essence of habits have changed. I mean, I wonder, in terms of some, food delivery services that are out now that are super convenient. I mean, I'm getting my groceries delivered. Obviously, that's a little bit more expensive, but I think there are some core habits that are changing amongst consumers. Do you think that people are going to bounce back, or do you think that there's going to be an element of this new normal is going to be here to stay?
I think a very large part of the new normal is going to be here to stay. That's going to be the e-commerce, the delivery type, anything convenience, anything that saves us time to spend more time with our families and things like that. It will definitely stay. But the part of the country that I live in is just north of Atlanta. It's called Hall County, and we're probably 90% open. So it's 100% going to bounce back. But the new normal is going to be, there's definitely some aspects of the new normal that's going to be here. I don't exactly know what all that is. I guess time and location and the culture of which you live in will determine that. But I do know in the community I live in, rush hour traffic at 5 o'clock is miserable again. And in the morning, trying to get my little girl to school in that car rider line that backs up 3 miles, it's definitely happening. And society is aggressively leaned back into it. They're craving some of that normalcy. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be aspects of the new normal that stick around. Working virtually, a huge part of that's going to happen. Commercial real estate's taking a beating right now, just taking an absolute beating right now. So if you're in the commercial real estate and you're serving commercial real estate, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer over here, but it's going to be a little while for that commercial real estate market to come back, especially in the major metro areas. So you've got to look at the world a little bit differently. You got to look at it through a new lens. But there's so many opportunities out there that even with some of the new normal literally changing how we see the world now, I think it's going to open up more opportunities than it is going to be a pullback in the negative. So in my personal opinion. So
as we talk about Peacha, what were you going to say?
No, nothing. That just I find the commercial real estate aspect really interesting because, as you say, Lee, absolutely true, and also very interesting how a lot of agencies who struggled to get distributed are now going, not going back to an office, and they are maybe they're building a shed in their garden, but everybody's now remote, and that is happening. I mean, in London, big time. I have friends who work for very big companies. So, but what I find very exciting about it is that a place, I mean, I know London really well because I lived there for nearly 2 decades, but it had really hit a limit that was not sustainable. So now if some of the commercial real estate can go residential, I think it's going to mean a renaissance of some cities that will be more... They will come alive again, and there will be, better reasons to be there. So I think I'm very much looking forward to that. The funny thing is that I am doing the opposite. I'm taking advantage of that because I've been working from home here in Spain, but I really want to get out. And because I'm doing all this kind of thing all the time, video, lives and things like that, I cannot go to a co-working space because I think that co-working spaces are actually a little bit behind because all they do is offer you an open plan. And I can't have an open plan. So I'm looking for a shop. So, and I'm getting, lots of great opportunities because even if we were to go into lockdown again, I could always go to a shop because I'm not sharing it with anyone. So it's interesting that you should mention that. And I think it's hit everybody in different ways, but they can bounce back as well.
We've seen that happen in our village, Peacher. We've seen that happen in our village with old grocery stores now becoming architects or other service companies that are now offices. And we're a tiny village of 8,000, town of 8,000 people, mostly residents.
It's just really interesting.
I personally think that we're going to have a little bit of a pullback on the major. Everybody's gravitating to the major metro areas, and I think it's going to pull back a little bit for I think obvious reasons. Okay, but I think that's a good thing because it's going to bleed out into smaller communities, and the commercial developments will come out in the smaller communities instead of being all centralized in one area. It will balance out, but it's definitely going to be a rough few years for the commercial industry as it figures that out. So.
Well, they had, at least in places like London, they had it so good for so long that they should have, I hope they put money aside.
Right.
So one thing, speaking of commercial real estate, in kind of transitioning to agency owners themselves, with so many people being unemployed or maybe furloughed, I feel like anybody with a laptop can get into this industry, which means there's probably more a reason to specialize now than ever. But it is going to be a gold rush, and in a gold rush, everybody wants to jump in, right? Everyone wants to grab a shovel and a pickaxe and get their plot. Do you all feel like there's going to be?
You better say shovels.
And also remember that in all gold rushes, there's really only one segment of the gold rush that gets rich. That's the people who sell the shovels, not the people getting the gold. Okay, so make sure you're selling the shovels. We're the agencies. We're the one that sells the shovels.
Exactly.
So stock up on your pickaxes and your shovels because you don't get rich. You don't get rich trying to get the gold. You get rich selling the tools to mine the gold. So.
But do you feel like there's going to be a lot of people that do get into this industry and create their own agency and their own freelance practice and trying to make some money on the side? Do you see that as a threat to established agencies?
I don't, and here's why I don't, because I also think that the freelancer market is more of an ebb and flow kind of thing. People come in it, they're promised, oh my gosh, work in your underwear 5 hours a week and make $1 billion, right? And so I'm not going to get into who makes those kind of grandiose claims. Thank goodness nobody in this call does. But there are a lot of people out there, the so-called gurus, okay, that make all these. So
nobody here is in their underwear right now. I'm just throwing that out.
Well, I can't hold. Let me. But.
I'm confessing yoga pants, but that's fine. That's accepted.
So I think the bill of goods that were sold to a lot of the freelancers who dove into the market in 08, 9, and 10, and 11, and 12, okay, in that market, I think they realized that, damn, running a business is not like what they said. It's a lot harder than what they said. So I think we're going to have a flushing of some of the freelancers who just want to get a consistent W-2 paycheck. But it's going to be overran by a new wave of freelancers coming in. So I think it's going to balance out. I don't think it's going to be a super threat to the agencies because I think it's going to balance out in the long run. So,
yep.
This question came from Varshith earlier about how's it looking for copywriters or content writers due to COVID situation and it affecting the digital agencies. And I think we can. I'll start by answering this. From my point of view, but I think we could almost open this up to any kind of the what are some of the hot disciplines right now that are experiencing unprecedented demand, whether it's web or mobile or ads or some of the newer technologies out there. I think there's some really cool stuff happening. But I think that content. I mean, I think every brand out there right now is struggling or at least feeling like they're behind or that they have to get out there on Instagram, on Facebook. I feel like if it felt optional for social media like 2 years ago, and even a year ago, right now, I feel like brands are, gravitating and rushing to these platforms like never before, trying to find ways to get customers. And anytime there's, content on social media or websites, I feel like there's a huge demand right now for content, which may or may not feel like it depending on what niche you're serving, but people are having to pivot. They're having to change their messaging. They're having to change their products. They're having to change their services. They might be revamping their websites and or trying to get out there on social media and get consistent because there is more, I think there's a lot more attention right now. I mean, people are at home. I've been using my mobile phone more in the last 6 months. I mean, my Apple sends me that weekly notice of like how long I've been on the screen time, and I feel like I'm seeing some numbers right now that make me feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, cringe. I'm like, oh no, man. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Deactivate that. I deactivated it. I don't want to
just ignore it, right? That's the winning strategy? Just stop feeling bad.
Yeah.
So what are some of the hot? I mean, I think copy is here for forever, right? I think copywriting will. If you're a great copywriter, I think there's always a market for copy. I mean, even with the huge explosion of video, I mean, what makes video work really well is people getting on video and saying the right things, right? Having the right script, having the right conversion strategy on that. So, I think copy is here to stay for sure. I think that's foundational to every platform and every tech out there. But what are some of the other techs that you guys are seeing or hearing that there is maybe some new opportunity in?
I think very much related. Sorry, Jan. It's really related to content, so it's a good hook here. Is voice technology, because it's coming up big time. We had Chip Edwards on a Cloudways webinar talking to us about voice technology and how it's very closely related, obviously, to content, and it's also about being accessible as well. Because with even more people now online, that we need to make sure that everybody can use us and access our content. So I think voice technology is going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm not ready, and I need to get ready for it. And I think it's something actually that if someone needs to pivot, if you're watching, you're thinking, I don't know where to pivot, look into voice technology. And I'm going to look for Chip Edwards because he sells it and it's really good. So.
Voice search engines is a big deal, and big deal.
SEO and voice branding as well. It's all really big.
Yeah, very big. So.
Yeah,
Jan, what are you seeing?
I think that every tech related to virtual networking will also see a huge uptick. So VR obviously is getting bigger and bigger with the Oculus Quest 2 just recently being launched, and then there are tools like Gather.town, which is kind of like the old Zelda style, these 8-bit old games with Super Mario and Zelda, where you can walk into a bar literally with your avatar. You can talk to people in the bar. It's essentially a Zoom call, but instead of seeing yourself in the camera, you have this 8-bit character that you can then walk around in the virtual room with, and you can literally walk away from people, and their volume level will get lower and lower as you distance yourself from that person. So I think we'll see tools like that popping up a lot more to make all the virtual conferences and virtual networking and meetups and stuff more engaging.
Because I mean, that's one of the things that I've seen that's been really challenging with everything that's happened in the last 6 months is going to events, trying to recreate that experience, and getting 40 people into one Zoom call and having a happy hour, right, can feel a little bit weird. But then the alternative is you throw a bunch of people into breakout rooms, and then I don't know, at a real live meetup you can kind of do that thing where you're like, I have to go to the bathroom, or I have to, you come up with an excuse because maybe the conversation isn't what you want to talk about, right? But if you get thrown into like a Zoom breakout, it kind of is what it is. You're like, okay, I'm stuck here for 10 minutes. Like, got to do it.
Yeah.
I did a video where I shared my excuse is I go to the bathroom. Sorry, Jan, carry on, mate.
Yeah, I was also going to add that for many people, it's very intimidating to jump onto these Zoom calls because first, you don't know who you are bumping into, how many people you are bumping into. And if I think about my experience of going to conferences, I'm not that person that jumps onto the next table where 10 people are already there having the conversation, and I'm the 11th one taking over all the attention and having to introduce myself to those 10 people. I'd rather go into a corner, stand alone by myself, and wait for somebody to approach me. So that is, I think, a challenge that we have to solve in the entirety, because it's also, like Peter said, language barriers and impairments who are impacting these experiences for the attendees of virtual conferences.
The feedback I've gotten,
Goff?
The feedback I've gotten on the virtual conferences was that they sounded great at first. They even got some really cool technology behind them, but when you get into them, the networking and it is kind of, it's a little bit to be desired, right? So I mean, to say the least. And then of course you run into the technology. Does it working? Is your connections? All this fun stuff that's going on. it's been amazing to see some of these virtual platforms come down where you're literally walking through, and like Jan, you were saying, you're walking through and you can hear all and people off in the distance, and it's really amazing. I just don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's to the point where it's going to replace. I don't think it's to that point yet.
True.
I think it's got a little bit of ways to go. But now, as far as an opportunity on skill sets and kind of the trends here. First and foremost, content is king, okay? And as it always been, as it always has been, and always will be, right? But what I'm seeing is a huge opportunity out there, and a big trend like that is how you're using your content, the repurposing of your content. I don't see a ton of agencies out there that are specializing in repurposing the content. And that is a huge a monthly reoccurring revenue model that can be very lucrative if you get the right infrastructure in place. There's a few companies that are doing it, but there's a huge opportunity out there for that, in my opinion. So,
you mentioned so Picha, you mentioned voice, which I think is really amazing. I mean, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they are really adept at interacting with Alexa and ordering the.
And so was my 19-year-old father. It goes across ages. He loved it. He was a whiz at voice tech.
And I think even one of the risks there is, of course, my kids have figured out how to order Legos on Alexa when I'm not around, which was very surprising the first time it happened. And package shows up, and you're like, "Where did you get this?" They're like, "Oh yeah, Alexa gave it to me," which is interesting.
Love it.
Jan, you mentioned
same thing.
You mentioned VR for events, and I think that VR obviously is an emerging technology. There's other emerging technologies out there like messaging and bots and AI, and there's a lot of these really cool things. And I think one of the challenges as somebody who's been in this industry for 20 years is like, how to know what to pay attention to and not to pay attention to, or what could be a business model and what could not be a business model. And even voice, I know a couple of agencies that are focused on this, and it's finding the revenue models early is challenging on some of these trends. So any thoughts for our viewers around if they are struggling and they're looking for other disciplines, or they're wondering what is the next trend, should I be jumping on this or not? How to maybe evaluate that, or thinking about that, or better yet, make money from that?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think when you're venturing into a new niche like VR or virtual conferencing, you need to be very mindful that you are going to pivot a lot, because there is no such thing as a blueprint for getting into the niche and dominating it straight away. What I would say is I would experiment with the tools myself first. So when I'm looking to maybe consult with agency or with other businesses on how to use VR in their virtual events, I would download all the tools, get an Oculus Quest 2, and then just play around, get a feel for it myself, and try to find ways so that I can use it to engage with other people online, which, as he said, is not going to replace the physical events and the physical connections you can make, but it's getting close, I think. And VR, I don't have a VR headset myself yet, but there's tools that you can use on a computer as well. I think we are getting there, in that virtual avatars are actually looking at least somewhat like we are looking. So the connections are getting a little bit better there, but it is, for me, I would just say trial and error, really, and being open to pivoting a lot.
Yeah, I went to a live concert on my Oculus, but the I guess it was an Oculus Quest. I went to a Billie Eilish concert and sat in the audience as an avatar, and it was kind of weird. It was weird. It wasn't there yet, but I think it could, will be there soon. So I definitely would encourage, experimentation, trying things. And maybe even be willing to create some pilot projects or MVPs or spec work for clients that maybe you have, like champion clients. If you can show them what the technology can do, maybe you can get some projects like that.
I've always found being an early adopter when you're running an agency to be, again, a slippery slope. You know what I mean? And not to be argumentative with John here like that, but I feel like I love drinking with new stuff, and that's been a problem of mine. I can't help it. I'm a crackhead. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Problem is when you go out to the audience and you try to explain to them, what it's doing, we've always found to meet the market where they are. Okay, so in other words, if the market is not, if they're not up to VR, and hell, a lot of them aren't even up to having a website yet. So we found that to be a little bit of an uphill fight to getting the revenue coming in. And so I would caution people on that a little bit, meet them where they are. We used to try to educate people on CRM. I built the world's largest Infusionsoft agency on the planet, and that's the one I sold. And we used to try to meet people and to educate them on CRMs. And we found that was a complete and utter waste of time and money. Like utter. I mean, if they don't want to learn what a CRM is, they're not going to learn it. So we then leaned in more to communities that they've already adopted the CRM. They're just looking to maybe switch CRMs, and so with that seemed to work real well for us. So I'm not too much on the early adopter. You can go down a rabbit hole there that can cost you a lot of money pretty quickly from my experience.
And it comes with a ton of mental challenges as well.
It does,
because you are facing, as you said, it's an uphill battle. So definitely challenging the challenges you are adding to yourself while already dealing with a lot of challenges through these times.
Definitely. So
one thing I'd love to kind of end on today is, speaking of challenges, I know a lot of agencies out there, whether you're experiencing a lot of demand or not, you might have other areas of your life around, family responsibilities, personal responsibilities. I know a lot of people that have kids, or maybe they're a solo parent and they have kids, that it's been crazy the last few months in trying to manage work-life balance, working remote, feeling isolated. I know, Picha, you and the Cloudways team have done some work with Big Orange Heart. Any comments on how people can get resources if they do need more support, somebody to talk to, or kind of methods for dealing with some of the challenges that exist right now within our industry?
Yes, thank you, Brent. So Big Orange Heart is a wonderful charity that was born precisely to look after the needs of remote workers, because it's a whole new set of challenges. And we've been doing it for a while, but there were people that were completely new to it and were, had to face serious mental health problems, and that's what Big Orange Heart do. And if you go to the website that Lee posted there's a way you can immediately join. There's a Slack channel that you can join, and that already will give you, it's a completely safe space where you can get even business advice. It's amazing what can be done. And also with Cloudways, we regularly host monthly webinars where we talk about mental health issues related to the workplace and to working remotely. So there is help even for that. And I think that going back to the positive side effects, unexpected positive side effects of COVID, it has been how the community, we already had a sort of strong online community, but it's become even stronger. And if you feel isolated and you wish you didn't, then please, by all means, go to Big Orange Heart and join the community, join the conversation, and you can even join and lurk and not talk to anyone for ages if that's what you because it's hard if you don't know anyone. But you'll see how it's a really helpful community that actually gives even therapy and really concrete help.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Picha, for sharing that. And I would encourage those. I think these webinars are amazing. I think the positive side of social media and being able to create connection with one another by jumping on here in chat, connecting with other agency owners, find a peer, find a group, find a community that can support you in the good times and also in the challenging times. It's been really fortunate for myself to be able to have that kind of community and others on this session as well. So I know there's lots of options out there. So find your style, your mentor, your people, and get support through all this. I'm excited to be a part of this group. I think you all did an amazing job with today's roundtable. We talked about a lot of topics around some of the unexpected opportunities, the challenges, the trends, what's going on in the marketplace, what are some things you can do for your digital agency to take advantage of these opportunities, also make it through some of these unprecedented times. Just want to thank the panel for being a part of this event. Thank Cloudways for hosting this event. Thank you to those audience members that jumped in and threw some questions in there. We got to a few of them, but if you do have follow-up questions, definitely stay tuned for more great content from Cloudways, from the Mavericks team. We're really excited to be here, and I'm excited to be a part of this team. So thanks for being a part of this roundtable. Lee?
Thank you very much, everyone. Folks, if you are watching the replay, please let us know by typing in the words replay. I've already had a lot of messages during this direct and in the comments of people saying they're going to be catching up with us later. So if you are watching the replay as well, still ask those questions. This can be an ongoing conversation. This is evergreen content. It's going to be there. Let's continue to talk about this, and who knows, we can get together again real soon and continue this conversation. That's the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. Let's have a conversation and support each other. And remember, of course, Cloudways are super proud to support Big Orange Heart. So if you are struggling with your mental health in any way, want some company, want some support in any way, then please do check that out. Folks, all that is left for us to do is to enforce all of my guests here to do the awkward wave. And we shall bid you adieu.